Okay, thank you again, Sis Sharien. I'm just waiting on the
I can't
notification.
thank you. Like, this is awesome. This is my first interview.
Okay, praise be to God. Okay, boom. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this afternoon. We have a great guest, one who has been in the nation for quite some time, who grew up in the nation, and we look forward to getting some of your information as well as your inspiration. Assalamu alaikum, Sis Sharien.
Walaikum salam, Brother Josh. Praise be to Allah.
Yes,
Thank you so
ma'am.
much for having me on your show. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I'm really, really excited. This is actually my first interview on
Okay.
social media outside of my own podcast. Yes, sir.
Praise be to Allah. Okay, excellent. Well, we would like to know first off, who you grew up in prior to 75, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am. And who are your parents?
Sister Tahira and Brother Hakeem, Abu Hakeem Muhammad. Sister Tahira Muhammad in the first, they were Brother Gary, 6X, and Sister Barbara Jean, 25X.
Okay, praise be to Allah. Yes, ma'am. And what was it like growing up, under the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
Beautiful. It was absolutely amazing. I loved going to MUI. I went to MUI for 9 years. My parents joined the nation when I was a month old. And I had the pleasure of living right across the street from the mosque on 116th Street and Lenox Avenue. So that was, my life's beginning, so it was just a great joy. I had the pleasure of looking at some pictures with some of the sisters, of images of the mosque on 116th Street. And I was told that it was the day, I wish I had the image, I was trying to find it, but it was the day after the police attacked the mosque, and I was in the mosque at that time. I was at school. In fact, it was during the time of a transition between the brothers and the sisters transitioning. Brothers went to school in the morning, sisters went to school in the afternoon.
Yes, ma'am.
And so that incident happened during that time. And the whole thing was just fun for me. I was a little girl, I was 10 years old. It was like,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
they whisked us onto buses, and we got on the buses. We went to different believers' homes, and so we were with each other. We were playing. We just had a great time. So it didn't seem like the stories that you hear of what was going on from a child's perspective. It was, at least from my perspective, it was fun. It was an exercise of what we have been trained to do, to move out when we're told, and now this was a real evacuation. This was a real, but it was something that, we practiced hearing and obeying, being quiet, knowing, when not to speak, and it was taught to us that could be a matter of our life or death. And so when that had to be executed, it was just second nature for us as children, at least from my perspective.
Praise be to Allah. Beautiful. Okay. I'm wonderful. I definitely didn't know that. Welcome, Shareen. Sister Naja from Houston says, Assalamu alaikum. Sister Teresa Pearl, Assalamu alaikum. Sister Tracy says, yes. Zoom is being respectful, and she's catching the live. Yes, ma'am. My next question, speaking of Sister Naja out of Houston, we know you, many people know you now from winning the championship drill as a drill instructor in Atlanta, Georgia with the MGT. You've been a drill instructor for so many years. Did you have a love for drill? When did you find a love for drill?
Always, since I can remember. I've always had a love for drill. So I mean, that was our gym class. Drill and martial arts was gym, So I just loved everything about our training. you know, and growing up on 116th Street, and seeing some of the, you know, decadence at that time in the 60s and the 70s, heroin addicts were really, really prevalent in that area. Those coming from Vietnam War, as well as being introduced just by being in the streets. A lot of the young people were on drugs. So to see that, you know, and then living in a tenement building on the top floor, that was one of the hangout spots for the drug addicts. They would come up there to come up on the roof to shoot up, and then, you know, spill down onto the steps of the sixth floor. I mean, it was, well, the building was 6 stories. So, you know, I would be one that would look through the peephole and just, you know, like want to say to them, like, all you got to do is go to the mosque, like just go to the mosque. You don't have to
Yes,
live
sir.
like this. You know, I just couldn't understand why they would want to torture themselves, because I was obvious that they were in pain, that that they had sores. You know, at that time, the heroin addicts had sores all over them, and, you know, gangrene and things like that. And you're like, why would you do stuff like that? And so that is what gives me drive and passion today to make sure that I'm representing the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I was not always of that understanding. There was certainly a dark hour, you know, when the nation fell, and not having a home. You know, you went from having 2,000 classmates to no one, you know, seeing no believers nowhere, seeing this headpiece walking down the street in all different colors everywhere, to seeing no one, you know, that was very devastating for a child, you know, to have to go through that. In my particular family, it was a bittersweet, because um, my family moved the same day that the announcement was made. And at that time, it was that the messenger had died. And so that I heard the news, I was watching the news with my grandparents, and it was devastating. And it was exactly a month to the day that my grandfather had passed in January. And so I was still grieving over him. And I lived between my home and my grandparents' home. So it was this a devastation for me. um, all praises due to Allah, you know, through Dianetics with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan
Yes,
gave
ma'am.
us in
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
2010,
ma'am.
that I was able to run those grief engrams, and I definitely had a lot on that chain dealing with that period of time. You know, so to learn that the messenger is still alive and that he is backing up the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan today is a beautiful blessing. You know, to have the opportunity to uplift the banner of Islam, you know, is wonderful. So I'm just grateful, you know, for the opportunity to be here and give my representation, if it's worth of anything, to encourage us to hold the banner of Islam in our hearts, minds, and souls.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, ma'am. Sister Risa, Pride of 75. Um, Brother Joseph sends the greetings to you as well, Sister Sharien. Thank you all for continuing to watch the People's Podcast.
Oh,
Sister
okay.
Sharien, so you hear the news, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad has left or has died prior to 75.
Mhm.
You go through a dark hour. What made you come back and accept the teachings again?
Ooh. Well, you know, that journey, I'm glad you asked the question. You know, that journey is what gives me the patience and understanding of the process of coming into awareness. And then after you become aware, to actually come in, you know, because I spent 25 years in darkness, 19 in utter darkness, not know, you know, I didn't even know the minister had stood up until he came to Madison Square Garden in New York City. So then I learned that he came, that he stood, but then it appeared as though it was only in Chicago. We were, you know, my husband and I at the time, we were watching the 30-minute snippets of the minister speaking from the Final Call building, and everything, all the information there was from Chicago. So it didn't feel like it was something in New York City, even though there was a mosque on 126th Street. I wasn't aware of it, you know. And so what I was saying, that for us, my family, it was a bittersweet, because my family ended up moving the same day, my parents got the keys to a new apartment on the east side. So, I would always sing the song, moving on up to the east side, a deluxe apartment in the sky. That means so much to me because on that day, my parents got the keys to the new apartment on the east side, and what is called 1199 Plaza, and it was um and it was a duplex. Like you had stairs up and down, like in New York City.
Yes,
That
ma'am.
was like heaven, The
Yes,
doors
ma'am.
were
Yes, ma'am.
colored, they were outside. It's like a motel, kind of hotel type of feel. So it was like just moving from a rat infested and tenement into this beautiful edifice, of 32 floors, really 31, but it doesn't have the 13th floor. But anyway,
Yes,
um,
ma'am.
and then having a second floor with a playground on it where you can go outside and play. And I'm a child at the time, I'm 10. So, being able to go outside when I once couldn't because we lived on the second floor. And so the children were able to go right outside and play and be watched by parents and not have to feel it. And it's closed off from the public. So this was like heaven. So, by Allah's grace and permission, I went from being a student at MUI of 9 years and having all of my friends and everything that I grew up with snatched away in an instant to being in 1199 Plaza with a second floor and a place to go and play and things like that. So it was a bittersweet that helped to take the sting away. But then at night, you're still crying because you're still crying for your friends. To this day, it's not that many that I've seen since those days of people that I hold near and dear to my heart from Muhammad's Mosque number 7 in MUI, Muhammad's University in New York. So those are the things that I think, just being in my heart, seeing the headpiece, even though I was straight savage at that time. I mean, at that time, by the time I became aware of the teachings again, that they were, even though we were always Muslim, how it is, Muslim, have the messenger picture in your home, the minister picture, Master Father Muhammad in your home, never not eating pork, but doing almost everything else under the sun, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All praises are due to Allah. But then once I realized that, and I can tell you the very day that the light bulb switched in my head.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Are you interested in that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the very day after living the life of the world, right? I was a cheerleader. I ran track. I went to public school. That's a whole nother experience. Coming from MUI into public school is like culture shock. But just staying on the point of this, I was singing, and I was singing in a girl group, and we were told that we were going to take pictures. Now we're singing in bars, we're singing all over the place. Sharien Muhammad singing with mini skirts on. Baby doll my costume was a baby doll dress, like it's like a negligee, right? And I'm singing Janet Jackson, seductive songs, in our own songs, but we were songwriters, and we were aiming to get a record deal. And so we was going to be doing a show, and we're told that we were going to take photos. We were going to have a photo shoot for a billboard. And I imagined this billboard with me in this scantily clad outfit and Sharien Muhammad under it. It was like a slap in the face, like instant slap, like no way. There's absolutely no way I could represent with that outfit on in a billboard. It was like it just woke me up. And I told them ever since that day, I can't do it no more. They couldn't believe it. It was like, really, I'm not doing it. I stopped singing, and I got into my education and taking care of my children. So that I still wasn't in the mosque yet. But that was my first pivot back to home, was the realization that though my lifestyle and the way I was living was not in accord and would not be pleasing to Allah. And I did not want to represent that to my sisters, that this is what we should do. And
Praise
then
be to Allah.
after that, I ran into a brother on the street selling the final call. Now, all these years, so when you talk about when you're ready, all these years, I had never seen an FOI. I had never seen an MGT since those days up until when the minister came to Madison Square Garden in 86. The longest skirt I had was a skirt that came to my knee, and I wore that. And I was so happy to see MGT, but I thought they all came from Chicago. So one day I'm driving down the street and this brother is selling a final call in the bean pie. So it's so important, FOI, to be outside because you never know who's going to see you. You never know just by the sight of you who's going to wake up. So I stopped my car in the middle of the street, Josh. I get out the car. I got on this wrap thing with spandex shorts on underneath, like just savage. But I'm an animated individual, so I'm like, oh my God, where are you? Where's the mask? Da, da, da. I could just look at myself and know I was plumb fooled, right? But the brother gave me, I bought the final call. He told me the mosque was on 126th Street. I bought the bean pie and I went to the mosque. That's the 19-year mark. I go to the mosque, I accept, my mom comes, my husband at the time comes. We go into processing. I learned for the first time that we can't play the lotto. At the time, I was playing the lotto.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
And the sister said in orientation that we couldn't play the lotto, and I was like, "What?" So that was something that sticks out in my mind. But at the time, I was going to save my marriage. My marriage was on the rocks. We were struggling. And I felt like in my own arrogance that I didn't need Islam. He did. And so when he decided not to stay, I was like, well, you the one who messed up, not me. That was my own arrogance, right? So I said, I don't need this, you do, because I'm already on the Mustaqim. I'm thinking I'm living right, but I was living jacked up. Okay, so anyways, we didn't stay. I didn't come back again until 6 years later. And when I came back 6 years later, I came back with tears in my eyes. I called my mom in the morning. I had been going through this depression spell where I'm just crying all the time. And I couldn't understand why I was crying. And my mom and my godmother came over, was bringing me little stuffed animals and cars and trying to love on me. And they were loving on me, but I just couldn't explain. They would ask, well, what's wrong? I don't know. I'm just crying. So eventually what happens is I wake up with this epiphany that I got to go to the mosque. And I realized that the reason why I didn't want to go was because of the split between what is now referred to, I guess, as Al-Islam under Warif Deen, and then the Nation of Islam under the minister. I grew up under both of them, and I was a child, so I didn't understand the difference and the controversy or the disagreements between the two. I didn't understand it, So now I'm outside and I don't know which way to go. The mosque that I grew up in on 116th Street is now owned by Warif Deen and his group, right? The Nation of Islam is over on 127th Street. I'm like, okay, well, I'm familiar with the building on 116th Street. I worked in the meat market for years. I worked in a meat market. I worked in a Salam restaurant. I worked in a Salam restaurant even after when it was Salam West, as a teenager. And so, and this is why it's important for us to build businesses, because as a child, I was able to get a job and I didn't have to work for McDonald's or, these other places, right? I learned how to cut meat and all of that, but I'm digressing. So I call my mom and I tell her that I'm going to the mosque. And she said, well, I'm going with you. Which one, where you going? I said, I don't know. I picked my mother up. So now I'm crying like profusely because I don't know whether to go to 116th Street or to go to 127th Street. So I'm asking Allah to guide me. Just tell me where to go, where to go. I have my children in a car, and I'm asking Allah to guide me. And I end up at 127. I mean, it was Mosque number 7 on 127th Street. And brother Ben Chavis was the minister
Yes,
at
ma'am.
the time. So
Yes, ma'am.
he was teaching on the ranks. He was teaching on the ranks. And when I came into the mosque, one of the first sisters I see when I come inside to the sanctuary is a sister named Sister Karen, and I pray that she's doing well. But she was a student of MUI when I was in school. So these were all affirmations for me. She was on what we refer to as the owl post, seating post, sitting the sisters. So she sat me down, and I just want to give her a big hug and kiss because I haven't seen her since school. And then on the rostrum was Brother Wayne, who is Brother Assistant Supreme's brother, Brother Chris.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And so I see him and we lock eyes, and I'm like, I'm excited, but I'm still crying, but that told me that I was in the right place. And then reading the scripture that the brother was reading was telling me, that I needed to be in the ranks. And so ever since then, I've been in. I was in 99. In 1999, I was blessed to be able to join the Vanguard class under your mom, Sister Sharien. And I was on the cutting edge. So I understand, sisters, when we want to stay in the Vanguard class for 40 and 50 years, I get it. But we have to understand that we are choking the life out of the MGT class, who needs our youth in that class. So when we turn 36, we should happily come and join the MGT class and bring energy and life to that class. But suffice it to say, I was nearing 35 and I was able to come in to the Vanguard class. I met the cutoff. And at that time, we had to go through boot camp and all of that,
Yes, ma'am.
So it's a beautiful thing. Went through the rank, went through the class, went through all of that, and had to humble myself to come back to letter writing because of my name. I had been using Muhammad all of my life, right? Never used the slave name ever. There's no documentation in that name other than the birth certificate, and I wasn't even named when I was born. So it says baby, but my first name on my birth certificate it says baby. So right, because my parents named me 2 weeks later. My father wanted to see my character before naming me, and so then I was named Sharien Abe, which means sugar sweet obedient. Obey is to be obedient or perfectionist personified. That's what it means. So that's, he named me that, and I guess I live up to it. But yes, praise is due to Allah. So that's how I came in, and that's why I have understanding and compassion for the youth. I know what it's like to grow up in Islam and be conflicted and feel like the world has something better to offer. The open enemy gives us what's fair seeming. He makes everything wrong seems fair seeming. So, we now want, we want to eat kale. We want to be vegans. We want to do all these things that is against the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, when all we need to do is read How to Eat to Live, Message to the Black Man, Our Savior Has Arrived, The Fall of America, the books of the minister. Go where he say go, listen to what he says do, and just do it. Like this is what we have to do, because the enemy uses the teachings and does the complete opposite. And so when the messenger says do not eat soy, everything has soy in it. You see what I'm saying? The messenger says, do not eat kale. Now we have kale shops. And we feel like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. He says to eat 1 meal a day. We eat in many. He says to fast 3 days out the month. We're not fasting. So then that, because those of us who are is about to come off in a few hours or in a few minutes, I guess.
Yes,
A few hours for me. But, that is what helps to purify us. And to the degree that we are obedient to that is to the degree that we are successful. And to the degree that we are not successful, we can find it in our deviations. Okay. So my journey back, how I came, it wasn't no one else calling me but Allah. I was battling with where to go. Warif and Louis Farrakhan was like a split marriage. It's like a child trying to decide, do I go with mama or do I go with daddy? Do I, who do I side with? Because I didn't understand the big people world, so to speak. I don't understand what they were arguing about. So to me, it's like I'm trusting both of you and what's going on. I don't understand. So I had to go to Allah for guidance, and I thank Allah that He guided me to the nation of Islam. All praises to
Allah. Yes, ma'am. Okay, beautiful. And thank you all for continuing to watch the People's Podcast. And thank you, Sister Sharien, for your honesty and transparency. Sister Teresa Pearl says, this is very beautiful. Thank you for your transparency and beautiful testimony. Brother Joseph says, praise be to Allah. Sister Naja says, wow. Sister Tracy says, everything happens when and how it should. Your journey made you a better witness bearer and makes it more compassionate to others as well. Sister Tracy says, the boot camps were powerful and life-changing. Brother Victor says ASA number 7. Thank you, Brother Victor, for only watching when people from New York come on. And Sister Tracy says, I can't imagine the pain in navigating that. Yes, ma'am. Okay, and Sister Sharien, speaking of navigating through that pain, were you ever able to reconnect with some of the people who were under Warif Deen and mend those friendships once you came in the nation?
Oh, yes, sir. There's a organization, if you will, a group called New York Come South. It's amazing because I've never been able to make it to any of those events. They'll have an event here in Atlanta. And for whatever reason, there's always been something else going on that has conflicted. The last event that I think it was last year, I came like the tail end of it and was able to get a picture with Sister Fatima Farrakhan. And we were in class together in MUI. Who else did I see there? Sister Tyree, and her sister Helena. They used to babysit me when I was little. Sister Tyree has 2 children by Brother Supreme. They were married at one time. So, there was a couple of people that were still there packing up. So I was able to see a couple of them. But yes, the love in my heart is sincere and strong. The ties between us are strong, whether we see each other or not. And, some of us have gone with Wallace, some of in the nation and some are just in the world, So inshallah, Allah will mend those differences and bring us together. There is a divine purpose for them both, I believe, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught on that. And so, he is the unifier. He has, made it clear to us that Allah will iron out our differences. All praise be to Allah.
Beautiful. My next question is, speaking of the Most Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, whenever he's in the city and I am blessed to hold posts or to be in his presence, I always see you working and diligently and around him and serving him and his guests. What was it like for you meeting the Most Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for the first time?
I was crying. I was like, it's like something about meeting the minister that it's like all of your wrongdoings is just laid out there before you. Like, oh my God, I'm so transparent. He sees everything. He sees I'm a mess. He sees, Yeah, that brings tears to my eyes right now, just thinking about him. Just such a beautiful mercy, a blessing. We can never thank Allah enough for that beautiful man and what he has sacrificed for us, for himself, for his family, and for our people and the whole of humanity. Like, I mean, he is truly the savior in our midst. So to meet him, to have anything to do on his behalf. I don't care if it is sister, go get that pencil because the minister need a pencil. Get trust and believe. All waters is gonna part for me to get that pencil because
Yes,
the
ma'am.
man of God needs the pencil. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Like there is absolutely nothing that I would not do to secure and ensure that he has happiness right here, right now.
Praise be to Allah. Beautiful. And Sister Sharien, your mother, one of your sons was in one of my productions. You were in one of my musicals, and the Brandy and when I saw Brandy and Moesha having their verses, I was like, so Sharien, she was, she was in one of my musicals as the fairy godmother when we did Cinderella. What advice your son saying in the Lion King play that I did? What advice would you give to future mothers?
Mm, that's a good one because that I hold very near and dear. We must put our children. We have to understand that our children are in fact our future. They are more important than things. They are more important than the acquisition of wealth. We spend a lot of time getting bigger houses, bigger cars, bigger, better things, and not enough time on them. And I made those sacrifices with my children. And if I had to do it over again, I would not do it the same or, because they need you more. They need your presence. I didn't want to be on welfare. I didn't want to be a dependent on the government. So I went to work. I went to work and I went to school full time. And I got so involved in that. Like I got 5 degrees at this point. But then, and I felt like, that if I showed my children the example of a student, if I showed it to them, they would follow suit. If I showed them the example of not being dependent on no one to do for you what you can do for yourself, that they would follow suit. And by Allah's grace, both of them have gotten their degrees, and both of them are, self-supporting. Yes, sir.
Beautiful. Okay,
So that's the
excellent.
advice I would say. Put your energies into your future.
Yes, ma'am. Sister Tracy says that the time with our children is what they'll never forget. Absolutely. Sister Teresa Pearl says, yes, dear sister. And Sister Khadija Baya says she believes Grandmaster. Yes, New York is here for it. And great analysis. Praise be to Allah. Boom. My next question is, Shareen, I have albums behind me because I'm a big fan of music. You spoke of you being a singer and singing Janet Jackson. If you could choose an album, what album would be your favorite album that would say like represented you? Like, what's like your favorite album?
Oh, it depends on the moment.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
It depends on the moment. Favorite, that's hard, Josh, because I'm like so eclectic. Like,
Yes,
um, um, hmm, yeah, that if you throw a tune out there, it's just In fact, some may say Brother Jah, he teases me a lot because he says that I'm the chorus, I'm the chorus and title girl. So
okay, yes, ma'am. Yes,
if I hear there's a word, it'll trigger a song, and I'll just start singing, and it'll come from anywhere.
Yes, ma'am.
Definitely R&B. If I had to go into my earlier days of when I first started singing, it would be Aretha Franklin, Patti LaBelle.
Okay.
Stephanie Mills, um, Gladys Knight. Those are the artists that I kind of favored. Then later on, it was Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, um, Karen White. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, right? Um, and then nowadays, I'm kind of more, I'm 56 now, so it's like, gospel, Mary, Mary. Um, I still keep up with some of the R&B stuff, but it's just it gets to be like it's a lot. Y'all don't know most. Like really, it's just it's a lot. Um, yeah, it's a lot. I did hear like I like Jay-Z, some of his stuff I can get with. Um yes, yeah, it's a lot, Josh.
Yes, ma'am. It's all good. It's
I
all
listen
good.
to that
Okay.
and go, oh, a lot. This is my children. I still work with children. I've been a school counselor for 22 years now. And
Praise
so,
be to you.
I get exposed to certain things because of the children. And I receive that because it helps me to know where they are. It helps me be able to connect, because I remember being their age. And so in order to be able to speak their language, I have to know the language they speak. Um,
Yes, ma'am.
and so I could get with, most of anything. I listen to in this recent wave of consciousness, so to speak, in the fight for justice with George Floyd and a lot of the stars coming out with different selections. I listen to many of them, but I particularly like Lil Baby.
Hey, you see him back there. You see him. Yeah, little
Yeah,
baby.
yeah. I particularly like Lil Baby and what he says. Because it makes a lot of sense. Um, I just pray that you know we are able to rise above the machinations of evil.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That end up enveloping our young people, and particularly in the music industry. Um, I can't really hold up too many. I don't know of any really that survive that and can stand, in their senior years after going through that. You know what I mean?
Yes,
So when
ma'am.
the messenger told the minister and all of his ministers to leave the ministry, to leave the music industry,
Yes, ma'am.
um, and the minister made the choice to leave, we see where he is now as a result of that
Yes,
versus
ma'am.
his peers that remained, because many left the mosque, as he told
Yes,
us,
ma'am.
and they remained in the music industry. But what benefit had that given them versus the benefit of being with the man of God? You know what I mean?
Praise be
So
to Allah.
to me, that's the example.
Beautiful. And what do you do for fun, Sis Sharien?
That's a lot. That's a question I get a lot. Like, what do you do for fun? Because I'm such a worker, right?
Mm.
But working is fun for me. I enjoy working. I enjoy creating. Um, I enjoy watching others' creations. You know, um, so that having conversations with my sisters, is fun. Um, yeah. So that's what
Okay, excellent. Well, Sis Sharien, I have two more questions for you. Hold on one second. I want to make sure that, speaking of creations, I want to make sure that I give all of the shout out to my sponsors of this month's episode of the People's Podcast, Cash App, sign the People's Podcast. Thank you all for your support. Street Premiere Media Production, 4K cameras and drones. They work on TV and film. Thank you all very much. My sister Miriam's children's book, ABC I Love Me, and coloring book as well, which is on Amazon. Thank you very much, Sister Mimi, for your support. Sister Naima, Stay on Point Dance Academy, teaching ballet virtually. Reach out to her on Instagram, email her. She's doing a great job. Our brother in St. Louis, Supreme Men's Clothing. He'll keep you fresh, dripping. He's gonna have you looking good. Our brother Ronald, BMW Entertainment. They do event planning all across the country. Thank you very much for your support as well. Raising Black Millionaires, flashcards from Sister Tia Muhammad, teaching economic empowerment and development to young children. Brother Kenneth Muhammad, bow tie maker extraordinaire. Thank you very much, Brother Kenneth, for your continued support. Brother Todd X McGraw, Supreme Team Insurance Group. Thank you very much for your support. If you all need some insurance, reach out to our brother. Exodus, a new way of credit restoration. Thank you very much. They restore your credit if you need some credit done. We all trying to get it up there. Colleagues Boutique. Thank you all very much for your shirts. And man, if y'all want to get fresh, reach out to Colleagues Boutique. They do some great shirts. Our brother Chantel, and he does refrigerating and just transporting and trucks. Our brother Maurice D. Muhammad, the real money, selling gold, 18 and 24 karat gold. Thank you very much. Sis Sharien, I'm coming right back to you. Thank you all for your comments. The Navy Bean, More Than a Bean Pie, Sister Landra E. Muhammad. Thank you very much. El Muhammad. Dr. Henry Carter with his turkey legs, with King Henry turkey legs. Thank you very much for your support, Dr. Carter. Our sister who does the home decorations, thank you very much. Please reach out to her if you need some more decor in your home. Brother Dorsey Muhammad, Water of Life, thank you very much, out of Baltimore, Maryland. Thank you very much for your support. And Brother Rashad Muhammad out of Chicago of the E-Team with his COVID-19 cleaning company. We wish you nothing but success, Brother Rashad. Thank you for your support. My father's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ, AbdulSharif.com. Thank you very much, Dad. Last but not least, my two books, No Father, No Excuse, and Cleopatra. And Sister Sharien, you got to tell us, you got to plug your book, because we know that you're an author as well, and you have always been supportive and showing me the way and showing other authors the way. What is the name of your book, Sister Sharien? Boom.
All praises to God. I have 3 of them published.
Yes, ma'am.
Why I Wear My Headpiece.
Yes, ma'am.
I Am the Seed of Greatness and Little Sweet Khadijah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so all of that can be found on AgriChild, agrichild.com. I didn't realize that my name was still saying, from my other business.
Yes,
but agrichild.com is where you can go and get those products. I just got some new shirts in. So I have Little Elijah in black now, black, white, and red. Little Sweet Khadijah comes in purple, pink, and white. And there's an example of the purple back there. Yeah, so yeah, I have the caps and things like that. I just need to pick up the supplies, do a photo shoot with them and put them on the site, but they are in. I have the black and the red here now. And I need to go to the shop on Tuesday to pick up the white t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, hoodies, and the girls are tunic tops, so that they come down over the areas that they need to cover. So yes, sir, praise to Allah. So yeah, I'm excited about the whole journey. I remember when you were starting out, Josh, I was so happy.
Hey, thank you, Sharien. You helped me plenty of times.
I didn't know you had sponsorship. So how does one sponsor your program?
Oh, yes, ma'am. You just Cash App the People's Podcast and send me your logo, and then we'll add it right in there and we'll work it out. So Sharien, what do you want your legacy to be?
Focusing on the children. Yeah, focusing on the children, developing things that, my aim and purpose for this business, I have a job, which also is doing for self. I think we have a grave misunderstanding of what doing for self is.
Yes, ma'am.
Doing for self is anything that you do for yourself, right? That you're not out there begging and pleading for the things that you could do for yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I've been a professional school counselor for 22 years, actually since 97. That might be 23 years. And, working with our young people, and encouraging them towards the way of their passion and helping them to see how they can develop from within themselves what they are destined, to be according to their passion and their potential, and turning that into profit. And so a lot of times we think we're passionate about something that has been constantly fed to us, but without that feeding, would you still be passionate about that? we fall victim to being, you know, as humans, we want the road of least resistance. We want to be able to get what we think is easy. There's nothing easy. So the devil gives us a presentation of something that is appearing easy. So it's like, oh, I want to be a basketball player because it looks easy, right? I want to be a singer, a rapper, a music producer because it seems easy. Anyone who's doing that, they are doing it 24/7 pretty much. I mean, they may sleep, they're gonna sleep in between, but there's a lot of hours of work and commitment to the development of that craft. And then you in an arena where there's only but so many that the buying audience can support. So you trying to go, it's like chasing a carrot that's never gonna be within your reach, because there's only but so many basketball players that the audience is going to pay to see. There's only but so many rappers that the buying audience is going to pay to hear. There's only but so many music producers. So, but there are many street cleaners. There's millions and millions and billions of people who are engaged in other activities that make the world go round. And those activities would be better suited for you if you but allow yourself to connect to those activities. You see, so we get caught up in what's dangled in our face as an icon. That iconic image is just that. It's an icon. It's not for everyone to do. You see what I'm saying? So our young people get caught up in that because they want the instant gratification. They see sorrow and suffering. They're like, okay, I could solve this if I could only get that hit rap record. When that one hit rap record is not gonna make you nothing. Believe that. You just gonna make the record label something and you're gonna be broke, right? So you have to have a longevity of that life. And how many is that? You have Puffy, LL Cool J, Ice Cube, Will Smith. You can count on, you can exhaust, you would not exhaust 10 fingers.
Yes, ma'am.
You will not exhaust, and that's for the whole United States. That's not just Georgia, that's the whole United States. 10 people, really? But how about all those who work to make that happen? Because those are not individuals, those are businesses. Each of those names is a business. They're employing hundreds of people. You see what I'm saying? Let me miss Kanye West. I mean, there's so many, but it's still under 10 that has that
absolutely.
that longevity, right? When there's so much more that we could do. So that's what I want to be able to impact us believing in ourselves that we can, that we are the seed of greatness. The enemy has done such a great job in making us think that we are, you know, this downtrodden, unsavable, incorrigible people. That no, we are the people of God. We are the real children of Israel. We are the chosen people who have been hoodwinked and bamboozled into thinking that we are the N word, we are low lives, that we the B word. We are none of that. We are the children of God.
Beautiful. Go ahead, Sis Sharien. Praise be to Allah. I want to thank you, Sis Sharien, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be a guest on the People's Podcast. I want to thank you all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please give the greetings to your family, Sis Sharien. Thank them for their sacrifice as well. We thank you for your sacrifice, and I just thank you for always being kind to myself.
And I thank you, Brother Josh, and I'm making that bean soup.
Okay, all
right. I'm very proud of you and all that you are doing. May Allah continue to bless you and your family. Please give your mom and your dad the greetings of Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam, man.